Hmm.
60 years into the future, civilization will be plunged into atomic fire. You and your family are sent into Vault 111, where, unbeknownst to you or the rest of the dwellers, you end up cryogenically frozen for over 2 centuries as the world slowly rebuilds itself. In the middle of your slumber, you see men shoot your wife and steal away your child. It's only when you enter the wasteland that you discover that Dogmeat is the mastermind of this villainous plan, and with your child in hand, he will conquer the world with an army of evil robots. Little do you know, however, that he is the mutant offspring of the Shiba Inu from Silent Hill 2 and the annoying dog from Undertale, and that he plans to use his trollish genetic traits to create enough robot dogs to break the physics of the game's reality. Okay, the plot of Fallout 4 isn't actually like that, but you've got to admit that it's probably a lot better than the actual main plot to this game. And it provides a handy excuse for how damn buggy this game is. Do I sound bitter? I'm not bitter. I really like Fallout 4. It's a good Bethesda RPG. It has some interesting side quests, an intimidatingly large open world, hidden lore to find, a competent main story with occasional bits that really stand out, blah 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 blah. You've heard this shtick when Fallout 3 came out, then when Skyrim came out, and now you're hearing it now that Fallout 4 is out. In another year, this might have been one of the best and brightest RPGs of the year. But unlike war, this year has changed things. This year, you can no longer make the excuse that, oh, Bethesda's games are always riddled with bugs, or that it's impossible to have good stories in RPGs as large as this one, or that the side quests make up for a combat and leveling system that seems deep but really isn't so much. This is one of the best years that the gaming industry has had in a long while, and compared to games like Witcher 3, Phantom Pain, Pillars of Eternity, and oh my god, Undertale, Fallout 4 is just really underwhelming. Hell, even compared to something like New Vegas, Fallout 4 is really underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, Fallout 4's mechanics are still very competent, they work alright. In fact, they've actually streamlined the experience quite a bit. Perks are now more closely tied to your special stats, and you can actually level up your special stats like you would a perk, instead of having to scour the wasteland for bobbleheads like in the last 2 games. The karma system is gone, and thank God for that. Companions are now more fleshed out, and you can develop relationships if you cater your playstyle and decisions towards what certain characters want. It allows for polyamorous and pansexual relationships, making this only the second game in 2015 to allow you to fall in love with a ghoul. But sorry Fallout 4, Papyrus is just a better ghoul to fall in love with. Then there's the bigger new changes like the settlements, which you can build Fallout Shelter style. It feels like a natural conclusion to what Fallout Shelter was trying to introduce earlier this year, and I found myself wasting many hours just toying around, building trade routes, and creating the most elaborate defenses I could. It makes for a nice distraction from the other quests, which are usually pretty dull with a few golden exceptions. This really feels like Bethesda took the best cues from the modding community to make a game that really just works mechanically. All that's left then is to develop an interesting storyline or quests, and, well, as I said, it does do that occasionally, but unfortunately it feels like many of the side quests follow a distinct pattern that gets boring after you do it for the umpteenth time. The main quest line has some nice moments, but it's still pretty predictable and stale overall. The map itself also feels pretty underwhelming. I haven't explored every nook and cranny yet, but I'm not feeling the same way I felt toward games like The Witcher 3, where it feels like an interesting story or mystery is happening in every single square mile of the world. Even Fallout 3 had the weird stuff like the Gary clones, or the guy who worshipped the atom bomb at the center of Megaton. It pains me to say that I haven't discovered anything really like that yet. The Commonwealth just isn't as interesting as the worlds I've already explored this year, or even in the last decade. It's like Bethesda created a great template in which to have many great adventures, but forgot to make the world really that interesting to begin with. I have a feeling that if Obsidian gets their hands on this new engine again, they can use Bethesda's template to make something well and truly interesting, like they did with New Vegas 5 years ago. But as it stands now, Fallout 4 just feels a bit phoned in, and in a standout gaming year like this, that feeling just gets amplified more and more. The mechanics of Fallout 4 could have worked had Bethesda put a bit more effort into building the world and the story, but they didn't. And when you compare it to the stuff that's coming out this year, it just doesn't look that good by comparison. If you want to buy Fallout 4, go ahead, I can't stop you. You've waited 5 years for a new Fallout, and I know how great a new one feels to play even if it is a bit stale. This is probably going to be one of the highest selling games of the year because of that. But with better open worlds and more interesting storytelling this year, Bethesda is going to need to seriously up their game with the next one if they want to keep my attention. CD Projekt Red and Toby Fox have that attention now, and Bethesda needs to do a whole lot better than this if they want it back, even if it is Fallout. I want a new, great Fallout as much as the next guy, and maybe the mods will help this one fulfill its potential. For right now, though, it just ain't got it yet.